I'm Brittany Taylor, he's Wayne Hawkes. Wayne, the rescheduling of the 1,000 guineas was a success. Bet or forget?
Forget. I think the 1,000 guineas should be run on Caulfield Guineas Day, so you can go Caulfield Guineas Day and see the two best races being the Colts and the Fillies race.
But that's not the point of it, because the whole point was extending into this clear sporting air time. That was their main rationale behind moving it.
Okay, well then what about this? What if we moved the whole carnival back 3 weeks to, let's say, right now in real time, last Saturday was Cox Plate Day, this Saturday's Derby Day. That might work. But
but we're coming off like a record-breaking Melbourne Cup Carnival. I feel like it was as good as it could have been where it already is. What they've been able to do by having it at this time, extending into a spot where there's not a lot of sport going on, they got over 7,500 people there on the weekend. That's a tick.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. That is a tick. The best two horses on the day probably were the two winners of the biggest race.
So tick, and then I'll give you another tick. 3 ticks and I win. Wagering up 15%.
Any more ticks and you'll be in quarantine. I'm going to be fair to you here. Let's change tack and let's talk about the Perth Carnival. Are the East Coast horses going to dominate in the Perth Carnival? Bet or forget?
Forget. I think it takes a good East Coaster to fly across the country and come and take on the locals in their own backyard.
You know what? You never heard of Tuvalu, you never heard of Roots, never heard of Forgot You.
Yep, heard of all of them.
Yeah, and they're going to do a job.
Heard of Alsafina, Bustler? I think they will.
No.
They're up and comers.
My horses do well on the Spring Carnival. Your horses didn't come over for the Spring Carnival.
We're not talking about the Melbourne Carnival. We're talking about Perth. And these East Coasters have had to travel across the country in the middle of a heat wave. It's 40 degrees for 7 days in Perth. It's not easy. That could take it out of a horse.
The flight from Sydney to Perth, you know how it works. You always sit in 1A. Forgot You's in 1A, Roots is in 2B, and Tuvalu, yeah, she's in 4C with the extra leg room. Come on.
It's not a flight. It's not the flight. It's the fact that they land in these conditions. These horses wouldn't have seen those conditions in Sydney and Melbourne. It's always raining. We can go to the casino,
we can relax by the pool, a little bit of sunscreen on, we can slip on a hat.
Wayne, we're talking about the horses, not the participants.
Haven't you got a horse swimming pool at Ascot still? I've actually seen it. The horses are relaxed just beautifully.
Well, we will see on Saturday, East v West in the Railway. I look forward to it. Well, this one I think will be a close debate. James McDonald was the jockey of the Spring Carnival. Bet or forget?
I'm going to say forget, but only loosely. And before everyone jumps on Twitter and has a go at me about
No, it's not Twitter
J-Mac,
anymore, Wayne. It's called X.
It's called X.
Yes, keep with the times.
The only X's I know, I've got 3 of them, haven't they?
What, large?
I wasn't thinking that. Mark Zara, get with it. Let's talk about the jockeys. Okay, Mark Zara. What about him? Heard of him? He won a Caulfield in the Melbourne Cup. Now, I know J-Mac won Derbies and Oakses and 1,000 guineas. But when
keep going, a Cox Plate as well.
Yeah, well, Mark Zara won a Turnbull as well.
Champion
I can go on
Stakes
as well.
too.
Yes, I
5
get it.
Group 1s.
I know, but when you're winning a Caulfield and Melbourne Cup, that is extra special, and I'll tell you why. I reckon we could nearly go another lifetime and we see a jockey winning Caulfield and a Melbourne Cup in 1 year. That's going to be terribly hard to do. We are entering rare space now, Britt. Rare.
And you know what as well for Mark Zara, the fact that he had to make the decisions on who he was riding and whatever, that has to add an extra
Thank you.
Kudos to him.
Thank you.
I still think 5 Group 1s, that to me is the jockey of the spring.
It's not all about the Group 1s. The biggest races, arguably, were the Caulfield and the Melbourne Cup. And as I said, to get them to do it all together and to win with the same horse, rare airspace. Mark Zara for mine.
Incredible springs for both of them.
I'll agree on that.
I said it was going to be a close one, didn't I? All right, we'll do it all again on next week's edition of Bet or Forget.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website